Hello, welcome to a special Free Cheese podcast, Spoilercast. This time, The Last of Us Part 2. I am Matt Soner. I am joined tonight, or today, whatever you listen to this, by Joe Dix.
Hello, Matt. Hello, listener. It's time we talk spoilers about The Last of Us Part 2, so I hear.
Yes, it is that time. A game has released. It's been a couple weeks now. We have beat said game. Before I even say the time, I guess this is the spoiler warning.
Yeah, obviously it has the word spoiler in the title, so you know by now if you're listening to this, you're not a dum-dum. This is a spoiler. But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You're either listening to this because you wanted to, or because, whoops, it just started playing in your feed after you listened to, whatever episode. So if you're in your car and you're, playing with yourself or something, and it's time to change it if you're not ready to hear us spoil The Last of Us Part 2, Last of Us Part 1, Last of Us Left Behind. Anything else you plan on spoiling here?
I might make a couple Uncharted references.
All right, might make a couple Uncharted references, so look out for that.
Pretty much the modern Naughty Dog games. Just be aware. Yeah. So, What's that?
Jak and Daxter 2.
I was going to say 200 hours worth of content between all the Uncharted games and The Last of Us.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we got that part out of the way. I want to start this episode by sharing a quote I think is relevant to The Last of Us Part 2. This is from Dave, the man who was sleeping with my neighbor's mom from 2001 to 2002 and would subsequently leave drunken voicemails letting her know that Titanic was playing on TNT. And I quote, "Woo, doggy! This was a goddamn game, Matt. I tell you what, for someone who a month ago wanted nothing to do with this, I sit here today a changed man. I mean, I don't think that in recent memory something has affected me so, heavily, but also unexpectedly in ways I didn't expect. Yes, this is a video game with a story first, right? But I walked out of this thing just I don't know. I found myself throughout it just randomly just bursting into tears. I don't know that I'm going to get through this conversation without crying. It was heavy. And I don't mean heavy in just the story character ways, but in the ways that it tied back to, I'm already sweating, in the ways that it hit me just as a human being, I think. But also, the character story that they told this time around was also super, super impactful. Generally speaking, I loved this game and did not think I was going to like this game at all pre-release. How about you?
Yeah, it's funny because, I don't know, you say you weren't expecting it, but I was almost, because I just remember just how shit happened in the first game. When the brother turns... I forget their brother's names from the first game, but the one brother turns, they had to put him down, and then he just ends it right there, and the screen cuts to black, and I think I will always remember that moment as oh fuck, and that was after after the overrun sewers that were all fucked up, and one was the creepiest parts of the game, besides the elevator shaft and the generator, of course. But I don't know, I kind of went into it knowing what this was going to be, and it delivered and then some, almost. And it's funny because if you listen, past the feed, of course, if you listen a few weeks back here, I'm that first day, I played it Friday, but recorded on Saturday, and then, the episode came out Monday, and dude, I was high on the story. I liked what they were doing. I really liked they just got the Joel kill out of the way, and I snapped my fingers as I say that. I had a feeling that was going to happen. I had a feeling that was going to be the fuel, and I was just happy that it kind of kicked off. Not as sudden as Sarah dying in the first game, but just it was the thing that was ooh, it kind of hits you in the feels a little bit, depending on how you kind of go into this game and your thoughts around Joel and Ellie. But then from that moment on, once you kind of get past that first day in Seattle, it really just opens up gameplay wise, and the story just comes along with it, and then some, to this, I don't know, almost A+ storytelling from beat to beat, besides maybe a couple minor pacing things. But oh my god, dude, what a game.
I think the Joel piece at the beginning, I told you, like, you know, off air, that I expected that opening where you start playing as Ellie and then you switch over to play as Abby running through the snow. I expected the two of them, their stories to converge a lot earlier than they actually did in our gameplay. So I was surprised when Abby crosses paths with Joel and Tommy. And even once then, like, you kind of, the references she makes to Owen early on about, we got to find him and we're looking for him. Like, I kept thinking they were talking about Joel. And then, like, okay, these things are starting to get there. And, like, his death was, I think, you know, I didn't want Joel to die. Like, I didn't go into this game, like, with one of those little zipper dippers, you know what I'm talking about? Little things on a stick that you wave. And I didn't go with one of those, like, rooting for Joel. Like, let's kill this dude. Like, obviously, at the end of the last game.
Kill Joel.
Yeah, it wasn't me. When you finish The Last of Us Part 1, like, he is...
Oh, he's the bad guy. In the scheme of the world, he's the bad guy.
But that is his actions there, I mean, frankly, are the catalyst for this entire game. But they're the catalyst for the narrative that they tell here, too, which is that, you know, everyone is the hero of their own story. And anyone in the way is the villain. And that's so much what we saw play out with Ellie and Abby on both sides of that. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the storytelling in this and the way that they force you to go through that twice. Right. And like feel what it feels like to be on both sides of this war or anger or so much
like revenge. I think revenge is like one of the key themes of this, but like how far is too far? And I think that's like, you know, you get tested with that. Even goes down to the minor characters, and like we're going to go kind of, not necessarily beat by beat here, but we're going to touch on all of our reactions of like the key story points. But like you think of a character like Tommy and how he just changed and evolves to the very end there at the ranch, like the last time you see him, and he is just a damaged person, just like this old dude that is just seeking revenge. Like he's just stuck in his ways at this point, so much so that his wife leaves him. But like,
and it shows you, right? And that shows Ellie like what you become if you let vengeance take over, right? And it's like, vengeance is very much not justice, and this is definitely me coming off of just watching Batman Begins and that whole trilogy. But like, it's a lesson like taught there, but also shown here through how these characters end up, and like where Ellie ends up in the end. Like, it's because she let that like hate fuel her for so long, you know. Where, yeah. So yeah, we'll just kind of hop in. We've already kind of touched on Joel's death, but any like final thoughts around like just, like I said, I wasn't surprised. I had a feeling it was coming. I didn't think it was going to happen that soon, but as soon as that shotgun to the knee happened, I did not see a scenario where he was going to get out of that one alive. Tommy, I thought was dead too, to be completely honest with you, but no, a couple whacks down the par 4, and Joel is dead. With Abby, Ellie, of course, witnessing the last final shot, and thus cutting to black. And so the cut to black, that's so good in this game, by the way. Like in this whole franchise, by the way. It's so powerful. It forces you to accept that it's over and just kind of live in what you just went through. I think that whole Joel's death scene... when he got shot in the leg, I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go in. I'm going to take these fuckers out. I'm going to save Joel's life. We're going to have to amputate his leg, obviously, but we're going to be all right. And then the further I played through this game, the more I realized that the little bits of pre-release stuff that I had seen already told us this game. Like the first thing we ever saw was Ellie saying, you know, I'll kill all those motherfuckers. So I'm paraphrasing here, of course, but like back then we were like, oh shit, does Joel die? And like, yep, he does. And that's why she's going to kill everybody. And then even the piece we saw, was it Paris Games Week or one of those, with that whole scene with Abby being strung up and, you know, nearly hanged to death. Like that was all pre-release, and they told us exactly, like we should have known right then what this game was, and we still didn't.
So here's the fun thing about avoiding press. Did not even know Abby was talked about at all.
I forgot about it until I saw that scene, but that whole like clip her wings bit, was something they showed off at something. Was it like E3? Or no,
it wasn't E3 because I was solid. At E3, they showed the ballroom, like them dancing. That scene that's actually really late into the game with Ellie and Dina dancing and kind of Joel just hanging out.
It must have been Paris Games Week or Gamescom or one of those where they showed that off. I remember the game got a lot of negative press after that because they were like, man, why is this game to be so goddamn violent? So yeah, Joel's death, again, like you wouldn't have this story if you didn't have Joel's death, so it was inevitable. And in this world, I think that's the thing that they tell you right up front is the reminder that nothing is safe, nothing is sacred, no one is safe, that anything can happen to anybody. So much so that, like, seeing Joel's death, I was sure we were going to end this game with Ellie dying.
Oh, yeah, once things got going. Yeah, once, like, especially once, we'll get into it later, but once you kind of start aligning more with Abby, I really thought that was how it was going to end as well. And then, I don't know, just like something this franchise does as well. Like I always don't. The one thing about Uncharted was they never went for it. Like they never did that emotional like gut punch. And you got a tease of that in Uncharted 3 when you thought Sully died for like a good 30 minutes, and then he wasn't dead. He was just like there. And I think they even did that in the first game. He dies in the very beginning before you even kind of get to know him as a character. Then he comes back, so it doesn't have the same emotional punch. But like the biggest emotional punch from a death again, Uncharted is fucking Jeff the cameraman dying in number 2. So like. I mean, that's like the one thing that I always wish Uncharted went for, especially as it kind of got more grizzled there at the end, with it being called a thief's end. But man, like this game, like you just kind of know just from the first one, even though Joel or Ellie didn't die, you just know like the pain and all the side characters and what they went through along the way, that no one was safe. And yeah, with all the press saying like, oh, she's gonna get her revenge. Oh, Joel wasn't even in like the first 2 trailers.
Yeah.
So like you just kind of knew, and it was one of those things where they kind of hit you early. Naughty Dog seems to do that here lately. They just seem to come out swinging almost.
Well, hey, I'll tell you what.
No pun intended, but that kind of worked out.
If you want Nathan Drake to be dead, don't worry, he's dead according to this video game.
Oh yeah.
I got his ring from. I think it was in the bank. Did you get his ring?
So funny enough, I thought I got it, but I must have saw someone else get it because I never got it. I knew it was in there.
Yeah,
I knew exactly why I was in there. I know that's why I even hinted at it, I think on the podcast about going to the bank and getting the shotgun and the ring. But yeah, I totally missed the ring. I don't know how I did that.
No, I got the ring, and then I was like, okay, so you're telling me that Nathan Drake exists in this world, and unless I cross paths with him, then you're also telling me dude died. So. You want a gritty Uncharted story? It's just called The Last of Us Part 2. So after Joel's death, we just go on this. Now I don't remember like what their day count was. How many days does this actually take course over? Is it 3 or 5 or 4?
Seattle is 3.
3. Okay. Right. So we start off with downtown Seattle, which the highlight of that is getting Nathan Drake's ring and learning you can throw a rope.
Oh, and the shotgun, that is like OP as shit. If you can find that. That is about it. That is easily the weakest part of this game. And it does it like no justice that it's in like one of the slower paced parts. You just had this emotional high, and then you're coming down, and then like it's just a super slow slog and climb. And the longer you stay in Seattle, the slower that slog is. I mean, when I say in Seattle, that open world part. And I think it's because of you're in that moment, you are like physically needing to run places. And that's the part that's just drags about that is like, you're running in these open spaces. You're always moving on your feet in this game. But it's so many open spaces building to building. And that part just like, it just every bit feels eternal, especially in the wake of the emotional beats. Yeah, and like I don't know, I really liked how Ellie was like just very organically like marking off the map. Like that felt good. That felt like a cool. Unique touch to something, the checklist thing, but it still felt very much like a checklist to the point where like I think the Lost Legacy did it better. Cause
I never finished that one, so I can't compare. But I take your word for it.
I just feel like the Lost Legacy, like you're looking for treasure. Like the whole point is you going for treasure. So like you exploring the map makes fucking sense. It said like you once you get the oil or the gas in this, like just go. Like why are we still exploring? Like you are out for revenge. This is a set path narrative. Like just go.
Well, that was my problem, and I talked about that on the regular podcast. But that was a big problem of mine too. Is like this kind of like encouragement by the level design and by the collectibles in the game to go off the beaten path and find that stuff. Some of it was cool because you would find these weird pieces of like storytelling that would be hidden somewhere that if you hadn't gone and ventured off, it would be totally fine. But there were other moments where it's like literally like a small patch of land behind a dumpster next to a rotted corpse that, or not even the corpse, like it would be nothing interesting, like nothing of interest. But because I wandered over there, I found like a scrap of cloth. And that was the stuff that kept driving me crazy because this push for the game to be so realistic and the world to feel real and lived in. And yet, like, I felt like the game design and the environment design was constantly pushing me to do things that if I were that character, I would not be doing those things. You know, I'd be running forward. Yeah, if I'm going to run through a store, I would check the drawers on my way through, but I'm not going to go behind the store. I don't know. It's just that it's a minor thing. At the end of the day, it's a video game, so I have to forgive it a little bit, but
I think like almost like we just didn't take advantage of the full map at times, and I think that's where playing it normal is like not to say that this is like the main cause of it, but almost like a deficit almost because when you play on hard or like the other grounded or is it called grounded in this one? I don't remember now.
I didn't check, but yeah.
But like the next one up, it's like you're almost forced to use the entire map to sneak around or search it for like the eighth of a blade to, you know, try to get a shiv or whatever. So like I think that's where playing on normal, like we were just given so many supplies and stuff like that, ammo, all those things. It's just, I don't know. You didn't need to do it, but of course, like you're so used to doing it that it just kind of led to that. It's a minor. I don't think I'm as down on it as you were. I think it's just part of the experience of The Last of Us, in my opinion. But
and I'm not even down on it. It's just like that's the one negative thing I can take from this game, really. Like,
oh no, my one negative thing is the open world. Like
yeah. that'd be good. Yeah,
I almost hated that. I almost hated doing it.
Wow, I didn't realize that bad.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good. Like, the only thing that was good was reading all the Seattle and Wolf stuff, but I didn't know at that point
that Abby was the wolf, right?
Like, well, no, I knew that, but like I didn't realize like I would get more out of Abby's story at that point.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It was a decent setup for the WLF Wolf. What's the cops? What were them? Like the federal agents. Fedra, yeah, like them driving Fedra out, and then like you kind of start to see some of the Scar stuff. But yeah, like that was it. Yeah. It was just kind of laying the foundation for Seattle, which I think you could have did that another way, especially when you have like a first-person perspective from Abby, like going through these same days. So I
wonder how much of that Seattle bit is like a leftover. Like they thought about making this an open world game from the start, started to build it, and then said no, but we've already done this work, so let's keep it.
Yeah, I wonder, but by far it's my weakest point.
Yeah,
but then, kind of day one ends. Finally, Dina is pregnant, which was very obvious. I knew something was up, and I didn't think it would be because they don't really tell you the time jump from Joel dying till you leaving for Seattle, and you don't know how long it necessarily takes you to get to Seattle, or maybe is mentioned once and I missed it. But like you kind of forget that, like by that point you must forget that Dina and Jesse were an item like a week prior to that, like to the start of the game. So I kind of wasn't thinking about that. I thought she was like sick, but then when she said, "Oh, she's pregnant," I was like, "Oh, that makes a lot more sense."
As soon as she puked, I was like, "Are they going to do the pregnant thing here?"
Oh yeah,
because it's so obvious for like. I don't know. I want to know. So pregnant women write in. Do you puke that quickly? Because like she was barely pregnant and was already throwing up. I don't know. I've never been pregnant, but I feel like that's a common thing, and I feel like it's like a trope at this point where it's like, okay, well she's gonna be pregnant, so we better have her throw up because that'll indicate she's pregnant. And I mean it got me. I was like, oh yeah, she's puked. She's pregnant. It's a right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and she was holding her stomach and out of breath the like entire Seattle thing.
So once that reveal happened, it was more of just like confirmation that I was, on the right track. And that honestly kind of damned me for most of the rest of the game because I kept thinking I was smarter than the game and trying to figure it out, which I was happy that it kept surprising me along the way.
Yeah.
Although I did know Jesse was going to die because he was too good for this world to survive. So
yeah, but where I was trying to get at was our first little memory, and I want to say this is where The Last of Us Part 2 shines almost, in my opinion. The quiet moments, the ones. Well, at least the first 2/3 of this part. I loved that whole museum thing. I put the hat on everything I could. Put the hat on Joel. Got the trophy. I was just doing it all. I even had the hat on Joel, and he put it on the dinosaur. Did the space thing, and he got in. You're like pretending you're like. I love that, and I thought it was like such like a good. The timing of that, like you're kind of at this point, you got through the slog of the day one of Seattle, and then like you're kind of reminded, like, oh, that's right, we're kind of doing this for Joel, and Ellie and Joel are so close, and you forget that, and then it just ends with a little bit of a butt clutcher. I was a little concerned about what I was going to encounter there, but then of course the Firefly symbol, and then it just starts to raise the doubts again, almost. Mm-hmm. And it's just the fuel to the fire until for you that it's the fuel that kind of leads on to the next couple of memories, where of course Ellie finally figures out what Joel did, and not apologizing, but like he said, has a couple of memories down the road here.
So that was the part for me though. Like honestly, the memories I did not appreciate until after I was done the game.
Oh,
because they were so... It's not that I didn't like them. It's just that I felt like the stories within were so far less compelling than the story that we're currently experiencing in modern day, in the current timeline, that the memory felt like a distraction, or it was taking me away from seeing the story progress. Because it was, but I really didn't like... I don't know. I felt like there's a part of me that when it cut to a flashback, I was like, oh, come on, man. And it wasn't until you get through it that I was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, because it's odd for us, right? Like, we can't literally jump through time. I mean, unless you're like a cool... anyway. But you... Something hits you, something happens, and it strikes up a memory. And sometimes those memories are so strong and so fragrant that they do completely pull you out of what you're doing and take you there. It's just, in a game, in a story like that, it's, I don't know. I was also playing this game like 6 hours at a time. So it was like, you know what I mean? Like, I felt like I'd be 2 hours in, and then it would be like, all right, let's spend an hour on this other thing. And if I started to use those moments as forced breaks from the game, because it let me kind of just separate those moments and not feel like I was being pulled and pushed in different directions.
It's funny.
Ultimately, again, I did love them, but yeah.
It's funny you say that because those were my stopping points, honestly. I said, like, I never had, like, the 6-hour binge. I think the longest was, like, 4 hours or so. But, like, whenever, like, I had to go to bed because I worked the next day or something like that, like, after I completed a memory, I knew if I move forward one step, I might even be intrigued to keep playing for another 2 or 3 hours. So I use those as my stopping points, kind of like you use them as breaks. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it would be before or after. I'd be like, if I was like getting into one, I'd be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna go make dinner now, and we'll eat, and then I'll come back to this before bed and play through the memory and through the next chapter or whatever." And yeah, so the museum though, that one was cool, but honestly, the museum didn't hit me in. It was a moment, like you said. I think that's a super good point about. It reminds you why Ellie's doing this in the first place. It reminds you of the relationship that they had in the first one. It takes you back to the memory of the giraffe and all those things that they got to see and experience together. That kind of father and daughter relationship they had. But I didn't feel the weight of the museum birthday trip until I got to the aquarium trip with Abby and Owen, their flashback to that, only because it then completely held that mirror to them, right? Like it it showed how just parallel lives, you know what I mean? Like, they are no different. There's two lions moving the exact same direction, with the exact same things and the exact same human interaction and all that stuff.
But with different motivations, and that's like so good. Like you're looking at someone that has completed their revenge, but is still almost haunted by it because maybe not Abby is affected. She ends up being affected, but right away like Mel's not talking to her. You know, Owen has a different perspective on life. You know, it doesn't help that Mel's pregnant as well, and like these people that she grew up with almost, I guess, with the Fireflies and then Wolf, WLF, like that is, you're looking at the person that got their revenge and how life is after it, and then this parallel of Ellie of like seeking the revenge, and it's just such a great little narrative structure almost, and that's something I want to get into later. Is if like we're gonna be pretend writers for Naughty Dog, maybe edit the story if you want to, but like that's something that parallel like storyline. It's like so good, and that's one of the things that makes this thing pay off. I just want to touch a couple points here on Ellie's killing spree. So she kills a couple Nova people. The chick with the Vita, obviously, that's the most important one, who was playing Hotline Miami. The Nora killing, that's one. Why didn't we have to hit square to beat the shit out of her and make her talk? Why did it cut and then we got Ellie saying she talked? I thought that was very weird.
Yeah,
when everything else you were pressing square to beat the shit out of anyone. Like it was just weird that there was that cut there, and then I thought for sure Ellie just killed her, and we got nothing out of it. But then she came back, told Dina that like she talked. I was like, oh, that's what?
Why didn't we
I
see
miss
her
something?
talk?
Did I like? Where's the rewind button?
I mean, I guess at that point, right? Like you can think about the fact that up until then, we hadn't seen Ellie let her revenge completely come out, right? And that's her first real taste of it, I guess. But it was a weird scene.
I almost wish that they did it and they ubered violenced it in a way to try to keep the M rating, but just like show that like it feels gross to set up what later becomes the Mel and Owen revenge. Like I feel like they could have did something a little bit more just to kind of start twisting.
Show how ugly it is to become that, and or like either show how ugly it is or show how ugly it is and how it doesn't affect Ellie. How in that moment after that Ellie still has that drive because that wasn't Abby, right? Like there's all those things that just didn't get explored that seemed very weird. Like.
And all it took, honestly, was like probably 3 presses of the square button and an extended cutscene.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could sway the camera or, just the amount of blood and just like, I don't know, like you could, I feel like you could have really did something. And even if you had to do the Quentin Tarantino trick of turning it black and white, like for Kill Bill.
But and I don't think either of us are coming this from like a cool torture porn Eli Roth kind of thing. No. It's not that at all. It's just like
knowing what the end result is. That's what the difference is, I think.
Yeah, that was just a weird scene. Like if you're gonna do it, just do it. Don't do what they did. I don't know. It was an odd one for sure. Yeah.
So as you move on from Nora, you get the information that just kind of blindly almost she's at the aquarium. So you start making her way there, of course, with Jesse, because Jesse has come back. He finds out that Dina's pregnant, blah, blah, blah. Then you two, of course, separate. He goes to find Tommy, which we'll get back to in a second. Ellie, I keep wanting to say Abby. Ellie, goes through, gets to the aquarium where she does not find Abby, but finds instead Owen and Mel. And that ends up leading to the murdering of... what ends up being a triple homicide because of an unborn baby. And like in Owen's, it's funny, you go back, you look at that scene, in Owen's last breath, he's trying to say that she's pregnant, and he can't get the words out, and then like right after Ellie, I keep doing it. Right after Ellie kills Mel, like she realizes and has like that panic attack, and finally like Tommy and Jesse find her and have to calm her down, but in doing so leaves a map that becomes a key part of the next segment. But yeah, thoughts on just Ellie's revenge to the point where right before the theater scene with her and Abby.
Yeah, that twist of when Ellie realizes it, and you realize with her that the girl was pregnant.
Well, you knew Mel was pregnant.
Genuinely, huh?
You knew Mel was pregnant.
I didn't know Mel was pregnant.
Owen says that at the very beginning when Abby and Owen are overlooking Jackson. Owen tells Abby that she's pregnant.
I completely forgot by the time we got to it.
So you as a player know that, but Ellie, of course, does not, and that's why, like, I feel like.
So maybe that's why it hit me even harder, because I felt like I learned with Ellie that this girl was pregnant, and it gutted me because before the story gets there, I got there. Like the emotional weight of killing someone who's pregnant, the thought of what if someone had done this to Dina, like all of those things, like the parallels, the story will now, flip its head and tell us all those parallels again are running through my head. And I'm just like, I dropped the controller the same way that Ellie dropped the fucking knife. Like I was just like so shook about it. Just like a heavy, heavy, heavy moment.
And I think it's like, after she does it, and I'm kind of glad that like Ellie, it just humanizes her because she like realized how fucked up everything has been. And like,
but that was the part that sucked, is like she didn't stop at that point. Like that should be the point where you're like, what have I become? Like you have the hospital scene with the pipe beating. Now you killed a pregnant girl. You took like 3 lives in this case, right? All for what? For what? Right? And like she at that point hadn't lost, but almost lost Jesse. When you think about it, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, no, you're right.
But prior to this, Jesse's telling her, we got to get Dina back. Like we cannot do this. You can't keep chasing after.
Yeah, Jesse shows up. Objective is find Tommy and GTFO back to Jackson.
And she made that promise to him knowing it was a lie the whole time because she is Joel's kid in the end, right? Like she is still, raised by him and the same stuff that that he did, she's doing. By the time she stabs Mel, do we know, has it been revealed to us that Ellie knows that Joel killed everybody?
No, I think after that, after you leave the aquarium, I think it cuts the last memory of her finding out. And then her just kind of, you see that hatred start to come out from Ellie. And like she, telling Joel to fuck off, fuck you, all this stuff. She's like, I'll go back to Jackson just because I told you I would. And that's it. Like she can never forgive him. And, that kind of sets up the second, kind of like the last act of the game when you're with Ellie, in my opinion. But, you find it after that, I think.
And that was the part, though, that if you, like, work backwards from there, though, like, I remember, like, once learning that, then I replayed the entire plot in my head at that point and just wondered, after all of that, like, you're still, there's no empathy there. Like, it's so hard, right? It's, the people that are closest to you, you want to look at as heroes and you want to look at as, as the family and whatever, right? But like at the end of the day, like you got to know why it happened. As much as it hurts, you got to know why it happened, right? Like he did a terrible thing. And obviously like Ellie doesn't know fully, right? Because I don't think Ellie really knew that it was Abby's dad that he shot in the head. Not right away, at least she didn't know that.
I don't know if she ever finds that out. I can't remember.
But like, it's, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just one of those, like, you don't know who you're going after. Like, I don't know. Like, there's so many angles and ways to look at this where it's just like, it's kind of fucked up what Ellie did. But, at the same time, you kind of get where she's coming from. It's almost like the Joel thing from the end of the first game. All over again. Like, you can see why he did it. It doesn't mean it's good. So, I don't know. That's where this world is, like, its motivations are it's like, you always think you're the good guy because you think you have the right motivation, and you're just you're not, like, in most cases, literally most cases in this game and in this world, like, whatever someone's motivation was kind of like fucked up in the scheme of things. So yeah, we get so after all the murderings and revenge,
well, then we play as Raiden.
Well, before that, even, like, what are your thoughts going into playing as Raiden? When you see the scene happen, you see Jesse's dead, Ellie says shit, she drops the gun, Tommy's got a gun at his head. You're kind of starting to get mad at Abby again, and then cut the black, and then Seattle Day One. What were you feeling at that point? Because I had a lot of mixed emotions going into that.
What were your mixed emotions? What did you feel?
I don't know. Like, I still can't. It was a little bit of anger almost. Like, at that point, I don't think I realized how fucked up Ellie's actions were. Like, at some point, like, yes, like, Joel was the bad guy, but at some point, Joel was still my boy, kind of in a way. So, like, I was kind of still, like, on board for the revenge thing. Like, I thought it was still worth going after Abby, even though, like, the Mel thing, like, that did not. I think that was just a series of misfortunate events leading to what would end up happening to Abby. But then, like, you turn, and I don't know, I wasn't open to it at first, but then, like, they know what to do. This is the thing. They just have you pet a dog, and everything's better.
Right.
And you're like, oh, shit, the dog. Like, I can pet a dog. And then you can throw the ball, and then you go get it, and like, oh, I kind of like Abby. I can play with the dog. And then from there, I don't know, you just start to find out that Abby is human and not this fucking machine serial killer that you've seen only in, like, the 2 or 3 glimpses of her at this point. So, I don't know. Like, I think anger was part of it. I also, like, did not feel like going through 3 days of Seattle again, not knowing how they turn out. So I don't know. There was a little bit of a mixed emotion, and like, in anger, I think, was part of it.
Yeah, when it cut to black, I did not think we were switching sides. And obviously, the cut to black and switch sides happens in a matter of 4 seconds. But that split second, I was like, all right, flashback. Did not realize the flashback was going to be to the beginning of Abby's tale, getting us to here, right?
Well, it starts with her as a kid, right? It goes back to her and her memory, and then cuts to her at the cafeteria, like, inside of what is essentially, I think, I forget the Seattle Seahawks stadium, but it's the Seahawks football stadium.
And that was the thing. Like, when we cut back to Abby and her dad in the woods, I assumed at that point that, not that he was the doctor that got shot, but that he had been infected, and now she found out that Joel was the reason that her infected dad couldn't find a cure, and she had to watch him die and turn, and potentially had to do something terrible to kill him. Like, that's kind of where I was running with it. They took it a little. I think their version of that story is it's a little more direct and it hits a little harder, right? Because in my head, the reason that I started to build for Abby's anger is in my head, that first version is her looking for someone to hate, where in the reality, what we actually played through, Joel is the reason that, right? Like, it's not her finding an excuse to hate somebody. Like, there's a reason to hate somebody in that.
But then it's the exact same parallel to, and that's what makes this game so good. I keep saying it, but like, that parallel where, like, Joel killed her father, but then she killed Ellie's father, and, like, Ellie's hell-bent like Abby was, and Abby was hell-bent for years, and you see that with her memories with Owen. It just, like, impacts her. She just wants to train. That's why she's so jacked. It's not because Naughty Dog wants to make a feminine male, like, none of that bullshit that you're reading about. It's because she was so hell-bent.
I'm not reading about any of it. I stay off the internet.
Yeah, well, just continue to stay off, because there's nothing but garbage.
I know this. That's why I left it.
It's just, she is so hell-bent on killing Joel that all she wants to do is train, and, like, that ultimately is what ends to her and Owen splitting. At least that's what I'm assuming from that aquarium scene. But
yeah, because he wants a life outside of this. He wants a life with her, and the fact that you see them the night before he dies, you see them come together while Mel's not around, is a moment where, like, yes, it's two people who grew up together and have a care for one another, and they fall back into the comfort of one another. But it's also the fact that I think there's still some feelings there that he's never going to have for Mel. She could carry his child, she could whatever, but he's not going to feel the same way that he does for her, that he does for Abby, because of everything they've been through. But he had to, for his own sake, get out of it, because she had this. And again, like, that's the thing. It's like, revenge will fucking destroy you. That hate will destroy you. And it destroyed her relationship. It destroyed everything around her. And with Abby, she did not care what she had to lose, to get that piece, right? And after the fact, you see Mel coldly tell her in the aquarium, like, we're going and you're not coming, like, that whole piece. And like, she calls her a monster or a terrible person, right? And you hear Yara tell her, like, that's not true. And to Yara, what she's seen is someone who's kind and, like, giving and caring and whatever. But Mel has just watched the destruction of this person by hate and revenge just slowly be torn down to those simple emotions and not much more. So yeah, the flip though of that, like, I think when we did Seattle Day, like when okay, here we are, I had that kind of sigh that was just like, all right, now I know why I heard this game's 30 hours long. Because you kind of just know that you're...
Once again, the perks of staying away from everything. I just assumed this was going to be another 15-hour adventure, typical Naughty Dog style, and here we are.
Yeah. Now, I just heard on different podcasts people talking about it, in a non-spoiler way that, like, that was about the runtime of this game. And I was like, all right, cool. And I knew that before buying it, like, that's what I was getting to. But when we hit that point and switched, I was like, okay, now I know why. And I think they did a good job of, I know this is the part I keep harping on, but, we spend time with Ellie and she's collecting these little trading cards. We spend time with Abby and she's collecting small,
quarters.
Those state quarters, right? Yeah. And it's all of those things that they slowly started to do to show you how alike these two characters are, yet how different they are still, right? Mm-hmm. And then we see it again as we start getting into the scars with Abby and her relationship with Yara and Lev. And I think that the way that we see her interact with them, and just how your first interaction with the scars as Ellie is scary. That was the first time I felt
terrifying.
Yeah, that was the first time I felt
I've
scared.
never been more. I think I have a little PTSD of whistles after this game.
Yeah, I remember that part. I was on the phone. My dad had called me. And I think the first time you go to the scars, maybe right before it, there's a flashback thing that's more quiet or whatever. I might be misremembering.
Yeah, because I think day 2 is you starting off like, maybe I'm wrong. Don't hold me to that.
Either way. There was a quiet moment where it was not the scars part, where it was something I could be on the phone and not...
Yeah.
And know I wasn't missing anything. Well, it bled into the scars part, and we're creeping along, and I did not expect them. So I'm still on the phone with my dad, and like the conversation between he and I is coming to a close, but I'm still playing and talking and whatever. And when one of them fucking shoots me in the shoulder with an arrow, I screamed. I was like, motherfucker. And I think I did a quick yell, like an actual terror yell. And then I screamed, and he was like, you okay? You're like, he thought somebody just broke into the house or something. I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, don't take this as rude. I've been playing a game while we've been on the phone, just in the background. And I thought that this was a lot quieter than it is. And some dudes just shot me with an arrow. And he was like, all right, well, I'm going to hang up then. He's like, I'm getting my kid shot. I was like, no, I feel bad now, but.
Yeah. I have more words about that later. But yeah,
But they're scary, right? And that's the thing, is they're scary to us, the player, to Ellie, the person. And when you get to the other side with Abby, all you're seeing with the scars is they're the villain. Abby doesn't give a shit about Ellie or Jackson or anything there anymore, because that's done. She's finished it. Yeah. Now it's about, let's move forward. Let's get to where we're going. And the scars are the bad guys. The scars are the ones that are in the way. And as she meets Yara and Lev, the scars aren't so bad. The scars have a little religious thing that Abby makes fun of at the beginning of the relationship with Lev in particular. And the closer she gets to him throughout their journey together, she learns, that it's not any different than the stuff that she's doing or thinking or whatever.
But then you also learn that their beliefs have morphed since, their original introduction. Because Lev's like, people, I forget the name.
Yeah, they've taken her words and
like she dies, and since then, like, she's not the one saying it, so now it's coming secondhand. And of course, we all know the game Telephone. When you play with like 5 people, by the time it reaches the end, it's totally different. So that's starting to happen within the Scars.
Add that to thousands of years of religion, and that's called today.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like, I think Abby starts to realize that they meant good. It's kind of fallen off, and there might be a part of it that's the worst of it, and that's no different than the wolf, because what she experienced with what she's experienced with Isaac and her being at the top and knowing things. Like, she's realizing that both organizations, if you want to call them that, or both like thought of beliefs, or whatever, both sets of beliefs are kind of more similar than what it was made out to be. And and it's her kind of blurring that line, and I think that's where you kind of just see her character evolve, and that's why like you start to like become so invested in the story of Yara and Lev so much. I got real invested, and I was kind of real upset when Yara ends up dying, but she took out the bad dude on the way out. So I don't know, like I got real invested, and I was just praying to God that Lev did not die. When he went away to the mom, I was just like, God, please let me get out of that island. I'll do anything. I'll sacrifice Yara. Just give me Lev. And I don't mean that in a bad. Like, I love Yara as well, but it was just like, God, give me Lev. God, that poor kid. He's so innocent, but he's not at the same time because he's a killing machine. He's
sure, but like the world has been against him that my heart broke entirely when. The first time, so when Abby sets off for the hospital with Lev, and you're leaving Yara behind, Lev and Yara, because at that point, like they trust Abby, right? Because she's helped them along the way, but it's just scary. She's leaving them with 2 people that are, the wolves, and she's leaving Yara specifically, and Yara's arm is like there's all this stuff that like would give you that, and the fact that. Up until now, we've heard Abby and the other wolves in the football stadium and just out and about. They're little like, may your something be whatever, and may your something catch fire fast, and may you die swiftly.
What is it? Is whatever and your death be swift.
Yeah. And then right before they set out, Lev leans into Yara, and it's like, may she guide you. And like that just was such a, like, I stopped at that moment. I was like, God, they're all the fucking, like, everyone is the same. Like, why does anyone hate anybody? And that was the part, again, where I left the game and I was like, what are we doing as a people? Why are people so mad at everybody? Like, yes, people are wrong. Big Bang Theory is not a good show, but it's fine if someone likes it. Like, there's these things about us all as human beings that make us different, and that should be celebrated, not, like, vilified.
Yeah, and like, go ahead.
No. I'm going to say the same things over and over throughout the rest of the show, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's just, society is in, here come the parallels between our society and this game. I kind of understand why Sony tried to push it back when they did now. It is, The Last of Us, the society is so fucked that, like, you should be trying to come together to, like, figure out a way out of this. Or, kind of Joel, the kind of fucking fuck that plan up a little bit, but like still, why can't they still come together and maybe try to, why can't another scientist try the same surgery, or why can't everyone learn together and come together and learn and maybe possibly pull through this and find some kind of cure, some kind of way out of this. And like, the parallels to today, and we're at it even in a more extreme with COVID and everything. And I don't want to put a date on this. I hate to do that, but like it is it happened. Like, very much like right. It is in the heart of all of this, and man, it's fucky. Like when you're realizing it in this game, and you're like thinking about it outside, and when you're at work during a 15-minute break, and you're thinking about this game, and then you start looking around you, and you're like, oh god, everything's fucked. It's just like this game, but we don't have a goddamn zombie apocalypse.
Oh. Well, I mean,
kind of not zombies yet. That's the next strain of that's COVID-22.
But it's all fear, right? Like at the end of it, these people don't want to die.
Yeah.
In reality, nobody wants to die. So everyone finds something they can align with and finds something they can prop themselves up against, and they're going to die for that, right? And
Yep.
that's what this is. It's like, it's real there, it's real here, and it just... But the takeaway was just like, fucking love each other, man. Like, not... I know my hair's getting a little bit longer with all this, not to go full hippie, but like, we just...
Let's fucking chill, man. Just relax.
If we could stop hating, stop all this shit,
Yeah.
what could we become? You know?
Yeah.
Like, they could have found a cure with or without Ellie at this point. If the Scars, the Wolves, if all of them had worked together, what could they have become? But instead, they keep dividing each other, hanging each other by their fucking testicles, cutting their stomachs, like all
literally
the shit
hanging on by trees too. I mean, how many bodies on trees did you walk through?
Yeah. Which was cool imagery, I'm not gonna lie. Like the way they did that, and they had like their own weird little cult ritual thing to it. Like, that added a lot of mystique to them as a group. It made them much more tribal.
It's just more icing on the cake of the fucked society.
Yeah.
So yeah. I do want to talk about a couple specific things with Abby and our time with her in Seattle. One, I loved that little encounter with Tommy. I thought it shifted
The sniper. Yeah.
the whole dynamic of an encounter, like so much. And I thought for a second it might be this like little boring, like run to a point A, point B. But then when Tommy started shooting the cars full of the clickers, and you're trying to stay in cover, but you can't because you're just getting swarmed, and he's shooting. Like, I thought I died a couple of times there. Like, it was really well done, and one of the highest of highlights for me in this game. Playing as Abby and experiencing that, and just going through and just like running from cover to cover, trying to dodge his clickers. At one point, a Chamberlain comes along. I'm surprised they fucking Bloater didn't show up or whatever. But dude, it was so good. Yeah, I just needed to mention that. I don't know your thoughts.
No, that was one again. Like, because this game did so much to make sure that when you played through as Abby, it was equal to playing through as Ellie. It meant for a lot of gameplay fatigue, right? Like, although things got different, you had different enemy encounters, you learned new skills.
And
Abby
she
has
played
a
like
skill
Joel
set.
too, which plays different than Ellie, like
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
shivs and everything. So I kind of like that little touch too.
But when we hit the sniper piece, that was the first actual like puzzle of the game that was so unique from what we had previously played through, or what we had just played through for a chunk of Abby and all of Ellie. Because while their tool sets were different, the actual like beat to beat, moment to moment was basically the same. This was a total shift in the dynamic, which I thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And then the next part here, which I guess is probably one of the scary. I'm going to put it down. It's probably the scariest moment of this game. One last thing with Tommy, I forgot to mention. Like, at this point, I'm so invested with Abby's story that when Manny gets shot and killed, it's Manny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was upset. I knew he was going to
I
die
was too.
probably, but like once he dropped, I was like, fuck. Like, dude.
And the same thing happened with Jesse. Like, anytime someone just gets shot like that and drops so quickly and they're just dead, my heart breaks. I keep saying that, but I'm torn because it's like, it reminds you of how fucked up a gun really is. Like, it's just so quick. And it's over, you know? Like, it doesn't take much, and just everything that was is now not. And
it feeds back. I mean, we mentioned it earlier about like how much I love to cut the black, and you said it best. Is like, it just makes you digest this huge heart pounding moment so much, and just like in this case, there's not a cut to black, but like, yeah, like you said, a single bullet from a sniper, and he's done, and now Abby's all alone fighting for her life, and it's scary. Like, you know,
I had a moment where I stood in the kitchen. Because you run through and you're like in a restaurant at that point. And I stood in that kitchen for a second, and it was like one of those moments where like that character's thoughts blend with your own. And I was like, wait, can I turn? If I just, it's that thing running through your head. Like, well, if I had done something differently, would he still be alive? Like, it's that kind of shit that's running through my head as a player, mirroring, what I assume are the character's thoughts. But then it's all about like, okay, he's dead. I gotta go. Like, I gotta go. Like, he's dead. I gotta go.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
he's
I'm
dead.
gonna
And
be
if
dead
I
too.
wait here 5 more seconds, I'm gonna be right there with him. And you just said it earlier. Like, survival's the name of the game in this world, and that's why everything's so fractured. So So yeah, where I was going, the scariest part of this game, at least for me, the whole underground, like the basement of the hospital, including what's called the Rat King. Joe, I talked to you after air at this past episode, and I told you, I was like, I gotta tell you one thing about this game. There is only one moment where I had to go on YouTube to see where the jump scare was. I literally like saw the blood trail. I saw the door. Well, you hear the growl. You know it's bad news. I was hoping it's a couple bloaters.
It's not just going to be a clicker. It's not just going to...
I'm hoping it's just a couple bloaters, but you deep down you just know. And then you come, you get your supply, or no, you're still searching. You get the power back on. That's what happens. You go through the room, the clickers. That's not bad. It's your typical stuff. But at this point, keep in mind, you just went to that hotel with stalkers and walls. So I'm like now afraid of every wall that has any kind of possible mushroom on it. So like I'm like just it's one of those moments where I'm just like not even exploring anymore. And I probably missed like thousands of collectibles along the way now at this point because of just one little tactic, one little like mechanic from the hotel. And I just don't feel safe anymore when you're around clickers and infected. So yeah, I'm just like beelining straight through the clickers, and I see this blood trail. I'm like, oh, that's not good. And you see the doors are open, and you go, and I literally got into that parking garage, and I could. It was like Resident Evil 2. Like I'm only 2 hours into Resident Evil 2, and I can't turn it on. I can't physically move Leon to just progress. I can't, like, my heart is at like 130, is a very unhealthy 130. Like I can't. I freeze, I give up, and then I just move on. But this game is totally different. It usually doesn't have those, but this, and I was like, I'm not stopping. So I like literally went to YouTube to see where the jump scare was. Like I could not fucking do it. And I was terrified. I don't know how you received as someone who can actually get through a horror game like me, but yeah.
I chased down the blood trail, man. I was mad that I couldn't go climb up the pile of ambulances to find the fucker. I told you, like, when the doors finally open, when you turn the power on down there and you can go where the Rat King crawled out from, I tried to climb into his hole. I was like, let me inside that blood pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I looked around in there just hoping it would just end there. No, it didn't. It just kept, you see the blood
I tried
trail
to crouch and push my way in, and it was just an invisible wall. Yeah, I thought that was a fun fight, and I really enjoyed, the fact that was our big boss fight at the end. Obviously, we're going to jump a second here into, the Abby and Ellie part, but the piece with the Rat King, it was cool because it was the big thing. Like, there's nothing else like it. There was whatever, and it happened like 2/3 of the way through the game, or maybe the 70% mark.
Yeah.
And, it was kind of not downhill from there, but like, we didn't have to worry about another combat challenge where I wish more games would be confident enough to do that. To kind of like give you a big challenge at the almost end so that, the end is just kind of cruise control.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, you still have, in terms of segments of the game, you still have all of Seattle Day 3 after that, because that's you go into the Seraphite Island. You got technically the barn. It's not the ranch with Elliot. Like, that's not that long, but it's still like a story beat. And then the whole part of Santa Barbara? Like, that's not that terribly long of a segment. It's just like the length of a day almost. But like, man,
it's a bit. Do you want to take a quick break before we jump into Abby versus Ellie and the final bits of this plot?
Yeah, that's fine. Just one more word about the Rat King, though. Like, once I got over like my fear, like, all right, I know he's in the ambo, and I know I actually have to like literally hit the triangle button to search. I did enjoy that. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a nice build of like Nora saying like no one's been in there in years. We know how bad it is, and just like knowing like you kind of see shamblers, and you know what bloaters are, and it's just like how fucked can the infected get after so long? And like I don't know. Maybe
that's the part that makes me think about a sequel. Like
I know that's where I was kind of leaning to. Like maybe if we got a sequel again, and that would be. How do you top that? I don't know. I would love to see that, but that's what the Rat King kind of got me thinking.
Clicker Mountain. That's what that becomes. It's just a mountain of skin.
Mount Rushmore is just all in mushrooms covered by stalkers and bloaters.
Exactly. You need to go inside of it to kill it from the inside. Yeah, I thought the fight was fun. I told you that I ended up just kind of flamethrowing my way through that thing.
I
time a
love
piece
when
would
that
break
stalker
off.
peels off. That was the part I did not watch. And when that stalker just kind of peels off, like, oh fuck, like there's things growing inside this. Like, oh shit.
I thought something was going to come off the other side too. I thought they were going to even it out, but yeah. Well, cool. We'll be right back, and we'll drive to the end of the story, and then look toward the future, and talk a little bit more about The Last of Us Part 2. So, Matt, we make our way back to the theater. We know it's coming.
Tenet.
We know. Well, hold on. Before Abby versus Ellie, we've been saying this since pre-break. We were going to talk to this. How about the scene on the island? Right? The big war. Like, when you see all of the wolf ships working their way toward the island, and it's like, I mean, again, like, you have Abby and Lev working side by side and both wondering why the hell this pointless shit is happening. The war between these two people that, like, are not different at all. Everyone's just doing the same thing. And, like, where did it begin? Who started it? Why did it start? Clear, like, none of the people, it's like any war. Like, none of the people that actually get hurt the most ever wanted anything to do with it.
Yeah, it was because 3 kids, like, crossed boundaries and they shot them, and that just ignited this full-on war. Like, oh, like, just stupid as shit.
Yeah.
I have to say, so with that part, I was at a bar with Victoria recently, and I was just, when you have TVs in a bar, like, I can't help but to stare, even if it's old shit. I guess gotta look. But, like, the bar kept showing the Last of Us trailer because it was literally, I think, the week after it came out. And I am the person that if I want to play a game, I am going to avoid almost everything about it as much as I can. And, like, I was looking, I happened to glance up, and I saw a city on fire, like, in one of the shots. And I was like,
wow.
Fuck, that's Jackson. God damn it, I just spoiled this fucking game. This is how Abby gets back at Ellie. God damn it. Fuck. But, it was actually a sign of relief, like, as much as heavy as that war is going on that island. It was kind of a sigh of relief when I saw that was the city that was burning. I was like, oh, it's not spoiled. We're good. I don't know how this game ends anymore.
Those little things where you think something happened. Yeah, even like, I think I told you, I was reading after Other M. I was reading a Metroid Discord, and someone said something, and I don't know. I had no idea. They were trying to spoil, not even the fingers. It was something else. They were trying to spoil something and compare Other M to Last of Us 2, and I was like, oh, did that just spoil it for me? But, like, no, not at all. Yeah, so the island was a big piece, but then after the island, after Lev and Abby get out of there, we make it back to shore. We make it to the theater where we last left Abby and Ellie.
Yeah, literally that scene, and it's cool because in the first time it's the same scene, like, even to the dialogue, you even hear Ellie say shit when she sees Jesse. Like, that's that little touch. I love that so much. But, like, the first time you see it, it's like it's not Ellie's first person perspective. It's all from Ellie's perspective. And then this time you go in and you're Abby, and, like, it's a cinematic, but, like, you are experiencing Abby, so, like, you see her shoot Jesse, like, just point blank, like, oh shit, and, like, grab Tommy and how she got to Tommy. And I don't know about you, but at this point, I was like, fucking kill that bitch. And that is me talking to Abby to kill Ellie. Because I was totally, like, aligning with Abby. By the time this is all done, I love Lev and Yara so much. Yara is, Yara's kind of tragically killed, and, like, you just go through all this shit with with Abby, and, man, like, once you get back to that theater, it is just, you are just so on Abby's side, and then she, you just kind of, like, you're just hoping she kind of pulls the trigger on Ellie before even the showdown. And then when it's the showdown, oh my god, that's the best part of this game. Bar none, the best part of this game.
Really? You think?
Yes. That whole
okay,
tables have turned. You are hunting like the person you used to hunt is now kind of hunting you, and you're trying to hunt them. Like, I thought that was so perfectly executed. Maybe not necessarily gameplay-wise, a little finicky, but what they were trying to go for, I appreciate it so much, and I loved it. And even if it's not, like, the best gameplay segment, the highlight of this game for me.
See, I feel like I had a taste of that with the Tommy piece in the restaurant, because it took me back to, I'm having to sneak through a restaurant while a man hunts me, and it made me feel like Ellie in the winter scene with
yeah, that's a good comparison. I didn't think about it like that, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And there was another like moment of parallel between the two characters. David, yeah, thank you. There was another moment of parallel between the two characters, but then gameplay wise, because that was in the original The Last of Us, you do have that kind of you have that manhunt kind of, like, you can look through and see David through the wall and like know where he's coming around. Where with Tommy, you didn't have that when you're playing as Abby, but away. Now, yeah. But with Abby and Ellie, you do very much have that, and it added a lot more weight to it. I'm going to be honest, I liked it, but it kept pissing me. I kept failing.
I failed once or twice, and it's funny you say that because someone will reset era. Like, I can't believe this game's like, it's too hard. I'm like, oh god, just throw the bottle. Honestly, it's not that hard. You don't have to really hide. Just throw the bottle at her and then just go and attack her. Like, that's all you really have to do.
Yeah, I do like that she was as powerful as she was, because by the time you get there, like you said, you want Abby to kill Ellie, right? Like, you feel earned in that. Like, it's just, I'm done with this. I'm good. Like, we need to end this, and it's going to end this way. And with that kind of like hunt piece, like, Ellie being able to overpower you as Abby is a good reminder that, like, no, Ellie's pretty capable. You know, hand to hand, who knows, right? Like, probably not. And we do go hand to hand by the end, but it's not. It's not
a fair fight at that point.
No. You know, but Ellie is smart, and she's clever with how she's going to move around. She's a survivor in this world. She's survived this whole time. So clearly she's going to be able to put up a fight, and we get to experience that. But yeah, I was kind of doing some things where I was like, come on, that wasn't my fault. I had a couple of those moments for sure. But no, I didn't walk away from this thinking that was my favorite part of the game, but I think that you talking about it that way makes me appreciate it a little bit more.
I don't know, like, even like Ellie is still talking, like, you're so used to being on the other side when she's like, I'm gonna get you, fucker. Like, you're so used to, and then she's talking to you, but at this point you hate her, and you're like, I don't know. I thought it was just this brilliant, just little set piece, even if you consider it like a set piece. And then you're mashing square and you're beating the shit out of Ellie, and you know, and then you grab Dina, and Lev is the one that. Because Abby was going to do it, and Lev wouldn't let her cross the line. Because I think he's just so innocent, and I think that innocence kind of protects Abby in a way. Because Abby's not so innocent at this point. Like, obviously she's not so innocent at this point, but like, I think she wants to protect Lev's innocence at this point, and you know, she listens, and she ends up doing the right thing.
And that was the moment where, like, I remember. And this might be the first time in this podcast where I like feel myself getting choked up again. But I remember putting the controller down because I was so just like, when after Yara dies and Abby and Lev make it to safety, and they're breathing for a second, and they just kind of stop, and Lev's like just so, his sister just died, right? Like, he's just destroyed, and his sister's the only one in the world who ever believed in him. Like, his mom cast him aside, his people, like, they all cast him aside. And Yara's the only one who was there. So much so that, like, she was ready to die for, and did die for him, right? For him to move forward. And when he turns to Abby and he was like, they killed her, they're your people. And Abby, like, through tears, was like, no, you're my fucking people. Or did he say that? Now I don't remember. I just have it written down, you're my fucking people. And every time I look at that in my notes,
I think it was Abby to Lev.
Yeah. And just like that, like, oh my God, like, crushed me, because it was just like too complete. I mean, complete opposite, total hatred of each other just based on nothing, just because you live over there and I live over here. And that total hatred just completely torn apart because they came together in this. And then the fact that, like, you see that come to fruition when Lev tells her, like, dude, trust, I love you, you love me. Fuck it, you've gone too far. You got to stop. It was man.
Yeah, it really is like one of the more powerful moments in that game. Just like, because it's crazy. Like Abby, for that brief second, Abby not even for that brief second, like that segment, right? Like just coming off of Owen and I think she was even pissed about Mel, like despite Mel being so cold to her literally earlier in that day. She has that Ellie revenge like built in her, and they both are just trying to kill one another. But for some reason, I don't know, when you enter that theater, despite Abby being hell bent on revenge, just like Ellie is, like literally for each other, where this showdown's going to happen. I'm Team Abby, despite having a whole game and a half, or I guess a third at this point, with Ellie. It's just crazy how the writers at Naughty Dog are able to pull that off, and I don't think everyone has that sentiment. I think that's been the controversial part of this, is the Abby segment. That's the part where, like, I was saying it on the podcast, like, people saying like my Joel, my Ellie, all this stuff. Like, I think people have to realize, like, this is not The Witcher 3. This is not your Geralt. Like, yes, I can make my Geralt bad or good. Neil Druckmann and his team around him are trying to convey a very specific story about people, much like movies do. And the only other piece of cinema that I know that let me choose my adventure was Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Like, nothing else ever does that. Even down to Big Bang Theory. Sheldon's path is Sheldon's path.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing about characters and archetypes and all of these things. It's like, we do start to take a sense of ownership over them because we see ourselves in them, and when they're at their best, we're at our best. When they're at their worst, we understand why they're at their worst, right? We can validate it because we know what it's like to be in that situation, and we know that they did it because that's what they had to do. And especially in a game like this, where the stakes are life or death, it's easy to kind of find yourself falling into that. And I think, honestly, like, I'm not going to condemn people for feeling upset about that, but I would encourage people to take a step back and look at, like, what are you actually mad at? Are you mad because I don't know. Like, is it because it's like making you second guess yourself? Like, what's the real thing? Like, what's the part outside of the game that's upsetting you? Because everything I played through, everything I experienced was, again, a story of just how similar these two characters are. All of these, it goes past, we play as Abby and Ellie, but like Lev, Yar, like everyone
around them is affected. Like, even Dina, who's not even in the fights. I mean, that's the next kind of part we're going to move on to here. But, like, because of Ellie's, just hell-bent on seeking revenge, not, kind of helped by Tommy. And at this point, you just see how broken Tommy is, because now he's pissed because he kind of directly got involved with Abby again, and Jesse died. Like, you just see how broken he has become, just being hell-bent on revenge, and like he can't physically do it because of the injuries sustained in the theater from Abby, which I thought he was dead. I thought for sure he was dead, and when I saw that horse, I was like, who is this? And then when I saw
but if we don't see a body, he's not dead,
Yeah, and I saw it was him. I was kind of a little upset by that, but when he started speaking, I knew, you kind of know where this is going, and that he slowly starting to realize, oh, this game's not over yet.
I thought for a moment. So at the barn, that entire barn ranch, I did not feel safe at all. Like, walking out to go get the stuffed animal. Was it an elephant from the tractor? I thought Ellie was going to take a bullet and the kid would be there. And then The Last of Us Part 3 is you play as the kid. Or who knows, right? Like, I didn't think that Ellie was leaving that ranch. And I think in a way, Ellie never did leave that ranch, right? Like, the Ellie that we know stayed there, living that life and whatever. But she just, you could see she was just so, I mean, haunted is the best way to describe it, like completely by everything that's just happened.
One of the things, and you can kind of look at stills side by side, and this is one of the few things I'm glad I went to Reset Era afterwards. I'm just kind of like absorbing some thoughts, not a lot of thoughts, but just because I want my thoughts to stay my own, but just some things that you kind of missed or you kind of noticed. But like when you look at Ellie, she does look frail. She doesn't look as like muscular. Not that she was ever like muscular like Abby, but you can tell she's lost a few pounds of muscle. And then you just kind of think like, oh, well, she's living the home life. Everything's fine. Like that's why you're not training and shooting shit anymore. But like she then reveals like hasn't been able to sleep. She hasn't been able to eat, and you kind of put it all together there, and you just kind of realize that like she is so hell bent on revenge that if she's not actively getting it, she can't live with herself. And then Dina then realizes, well, if she can't live with herself, I can't live with her, and it's just this tragedy, and you feel terrible for Ellie, but at the same time, she did it to herself, and you kind of align with Dina for ultimately leaving. You don't know for sure that she left, but you kind of have a feeling that she's going to be gone when if Ellie comes back.
If is the.
I really thought Ellie. I thought her leaving was her last gasp.
Yep, I thought that was it. And it's weird because you're right. Like you feel for Dina, and you look at that, and you're like, you can't blame her for leaving, but you also can't blame Ellie for leaving, right? Like, as much as I just said how much I did not agree with anything Ellie was doing by the end of this game, and how you completely kind of flip who you're rooting for, when she sets back out, it's like, well, yeah, because it's either that or keep living the way you're living, and she's not living at all. She's just sitting.
Well, either way is not healthy, but like, she literally can't eat, or she literally can't sleep. Like, yeah, but
she also can't enjoy she can't enjoy the fact that she does have this ranch, that she has the sheep, that she has the kid, that she like all that stuff she can't do anything with because she's just letting these ghosts of her past just linger. So until she can go and address that, she will not be satisfied. And it sucks that it takes it to the point where it's funny because it's like it sucks that it gets to the point where it gets to that she needs to go and do that. But also if she didn't, Abby would be dead, right?
That's
Abby
true.
and Lev would be dead.
Yeah.
Their whole tale would be gone had Ellie not continued to seek revenge, which is, God, so stupid.
What a cynical, like, I don't know. That's convenient storytelling because it's been months by the time that Ellie gets down there. But, it's forgivable because, everything has that convenient time when it comes to media. So, we travel on down to Santa Barbara, but before Ellie does, you kind of get a glimpse of it from Abby, and they are looking for the last Firefly hideout.
Right.
And I knew as soon as she spoke on that radio, after seeing, because there was that emblem on the truck, as soon as she spoke into that radio, I knew it was going to be bad news. I just thought it was going to be bad news when she arrived at the destination, not so much right outside the house. And that is a tough pill to swallow to see that she is just overtaken. Her and Lev. Lev takes a big blow, but you kind of see he's still conscious, still breathing. So
I had to really look though. Like there were a couple moments there where I was like, "Oh, come on, dude." Yeah.
So, man, you kind of feel bad, but but that's what you get when you're in search. Like it's just once again showing just how fractured it is, and not just in Seattle, just like all over. It even goes back to The Last of Us Part 1. Like you go to Pittsburgh and you see like the hunters versus the fireflies, and the hunters like literally like sabotaging people as they're driving and ambushing them like just for a kill or whatever. Like. And going all the way through to the university, like all this stuff, all the way to David even. It's just further nailing the point that, like, instead of just coming together, it is all fractured together in fear and in hopes of survival. But then, of course, that is the catalyst for Ellie to come to Santa Barbara. She kind of cut to her. She's in this sailboat. She's like, oh, she went to this address. She gets there.
Yeah.
Oh no! She gets captured. That's what happens. She falls.
Yeah, she gets
trap.
strung up in the tree at the end there. But I kind of liked that final send off of gameplay with Ellie because I think if we had ended at the ranch, it would have left me wanting something. I don't think I realized that until after we get through that final bit, but actually going through that big weird mansion in Santa Barbara felt so good in the end, like to be kind of back in the combat scene. I thought that was
I kind of like two things. One, yes, I agree with you at the ranch. I thought it was ending, but I didn't want to. I felt there was too much unresolved, but then I also remembered how The Last of Us Part 1 ended, so I was like, oh, it might be fitting. There's just... You don't feel good again. So I was kind of accepting it, but then that's when she started packing her book bag, and Tommy came, and then she started packing the book bag. Like, all right, we got another segment to this, because we also didn't know what Abby's end was like, Abby and Lev. And I really want to see where they're at, what's going on with them. So I was happy that we got the next segment, but like the addition of the submachine gun was like just the right touch of. Like, this is the last-ditch effort. You're going to go in guns blazing, and you're going to find Abby, and you're going to put a bullet in her head, probably. Or torture, or whatever you want to do. Yeah. This is probably going to end with a bullet in Abby's head. Or Ellie's death. One of the two. One of them two. Well, there's no way either one of those two are walking out of what is to come from this situation. Or if both don't come. I would lean more towards both of them dying than I would have both of them surviving. Which ultimately happened.
In my head, either Ellie was dying or they were both going to kill each other, and the next game's just Lev's story.
Yeah.
And I was fine with that, but...
So, you progressed to Santa Barbara. I had a little Hitman vibes. Did you? In that compound?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, with the submachine gun, just kind of going through. Yeah, that felt real good. And then, of course, you free the cellmates.
Yeah.
They tell you that...
And you get to Abby.
Yeah, they're down the beach. You go through, and you start seeing the dense fog. And then I think someone says she's down by the boats. And then you start realizing, oh, shit, the main menu is literally the fucking end of this game. And then you encounter her, and instead of killing her, you cut her down, and you let her go, but then you don't. And then the brawl...
I was
so
mad at Ellie at that point.
Ensue.
I didn't want to keep hitting.
I agree with you.
Especially like when she was down in the water, like kneeled over, and they want you to kick her in the ribs or whatever the fuck. I was like, come on, dude. Why? Why do we have to do this?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. It's one of those heavy moments of you. Like it's one of those times where I'm glad the game was doing the storytelling it was doing, where it made you hit square when you didn't want to, but you had to. And you just feel icky and gross every time you're doing it, because you are with Ellie, who is supposed to be this hero, but she is not. She's far from it at this point. Not that Abby is like this saint, this patron saint or anything, but, in relation, she is kind of the better person.
Well, you've seen her come to terms with what she's done, and you've seen her kind of cast that life beside her. Total acceptance of Lev, and she killed the wolf. You know what I mean? Like, she betrayed her own people to save someone that her people antagonized. So that was kind of another moment where it's like, Abby gets it, right? Like, Abby's on the other side of this shit where Ellie's not yet. And it was just so frustrating to see Ellie still struggle with that until the very end. And I feel like, even though Ellie stopped, she's still not done. Did you get that sense from the ending?
Yeah. Did you... before we jump to that, because I kind of have a whole segment here titled "Let's Pretend to Be Writers."
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on the Abby Ellie showdown? I feel like we're kind of just glossed over it, but
it really just, like, honestly, I thought it sucked. It's fine, but I didn't want it. I was, like, agitated the whole time that it was happening. I know why they do it. I know.
Sucked that, like, it happened, or just sucked just story-wise, or a little bit of both?
It sucked that Ellie had to keep going, man.
Yeah,
like,
okay. All right.
And it just kind of, like... And I'm not saying I wanted a choice in the matter. I don't want to... I didn't want that.
No, I'm so glad Naughty Dog did not do that.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. But I also just... By that point, as the player... I was on that side of things. And you know what? Like, hearing that people are super anti-Abby and pro-Ellie, I'm sure that this ending didn't do much for them either, because they didn't get the satisfaction of killing Abby, right? Like, you just kind of get this spite-driven Ellie that... God, there's no outcome. There's just, like... she should have. But I guess that's good, right? It's good that there's a conflict there because there's still like a tension within me with it, where Ellie cuts her down, and in a moment you feel like that's the moment where Ellie had realized all this was so stupid. Look at what's become of this. All of this for this, and then she cuts down Abby, and then it's over, right? But it's not for her. And that's the part that is driving that tension forward.
And that final flash of Joel, but Joel in a different setting, because you keep saying the flash of him golf club right. After the golf club, but you see the flash of him on the porch, and that's the first time you see that flash, and you're kind of like, oh, that's different. And then that's when she lets her up, and I was not processing kind of what was happening. I thought for sure Abby we were going to kill Abby, and this game was going to suck for all intents. Not like suck, but it's just going to be just this terrible feeling to leave the game with. But which is deserving of this game. Like it could have totally did that, and I would have been fine with it. But you see her get up, and she's trying to come to terms with herself, and you just see Abby go on the boat and drive away. Literally no other words. She just drives away. And then it cuts to that scene, the same shot of Joel on the porch. And I thought that was such an important thing and this is like going back to that first memory where the first memory where like you see the Firefly symbol and it builds to Ellie finally figuring out what happened at the Firefly hospital with Joel killing everyone and breaking her out, and her just like forever just hating Joel for that. And then that night, literally like the night before this all takes place, you see Ellie say like, I can maybe start to move on. And I think this game is trying to convey that Ellie's come full circle. I don't think she's there yet, just like she told Joel, I can start to. But she still has a little bit of that hate left in her, but not enough to fully kill Abby, which I think is a powerful character development moment for Ellie. Now, what does she have left? Yeah. I think it's too late. But this is where we lead to the end where, of course, she comes back to the ranch. Dina's gone. The house is vacant. Not even a note. It was just nothing. I loved that. I thought for sure I was going to go to the bedroom, read some stupid note from Dina, and be like, oh, I'm sorry I had to do this, but you're too broken. No. I am so happy the game just avoided that, and you're just like, empty house, gone, nothing. You're just kind of living with, like, the decisions that a character made. And you're, like, living with it, and you're not even the one making them. It's, like, literally the game making them all for you, but you're like, kind of living it with Ellie, trying to figure out, trying to comprehend everything she just went through, that full circle almost. Not full circle, but like a semicircle, Like we're like a third of the mile through a NASCAR track, Not to date this game further, but...
Yeah.
What
do you mean date it further? Is NASCAR going away?
No, I've been talking about motorsport a lot.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
Yeah, you just get there, you strum the guitar a little bit, which I think was still one of the worst mechanics in this game. And then she walks...
Yeah, not fun.
She walks away, and then it flashes. I forget if it's The Last of Us Part 2 or Neil Druckmann's name comes up, but one of them, and the credits roll. With no after credits either, which I also thank you for that. I don't need after credits after everything. Thank you, Marvel.
I also appreciated that... and I don't know if it was this way in The Last of Us Part 1, but I appreciated the way they did the credit treatment, where it was the same way that they would put up, a single name on the board and then cut to the next. They did that throughout the whole thing. There was never a credit roll. And it just emphasized how important everyone involved with the project was, and I thought that was really good.
But yeah, no, any thoughts on the ending with, including the Abby attempted drowning and Joel's memories and the final, you go back to the ranch?
No, I think what you said is better than I could say it with the flashback to Joel. It's that subtle realization of, again, as much as we've spent an hour and a half damning a lot of what Ellie did and hoping for people to do better, it's still hard. It's still hard to let go of certain things, or certain things you just as much as you wish you could, you just can't. So I get that too. And when you get to that moment in the end, that flashback to Joel, like it's another brief moment for her to just collect herself and think about what got her here and what's going to move her forward, all of that stuff. And that if she could forgive Joel for what she had considered the worst thing ever up to that point, maybe she could forgive Abby in the same in this moment now. And
like the great thing about the timing and the pacing, because the game's pretty much in control of the pacing at this point. It's not you anymore. And I just love that, like, it kind of paces itself in a way where, like, that happens, memory, back to the ranch, over, and you sit there with the credits, and, you know, with the length that they are for what I appreciate them doing, like, literally putting everyone's name in a big-ass font, like, bigger font at least, and acknowledging everyone. But, like, you're just sitting there the entire credits just processing. And it's not like it's not like one of those hand claps like, I did it, I fucking beat Dark Souls, fuck this game, fuck you Miyazaki, like, I did it, time for a platinum or whatever. No, it is just you, like, there's no words, and you're kind of overcome with emotion a little bit. And, like, part of it is, like, this is the end of that journey, and you don't know there's going to be a sequel. You don't like, and also once we're back again, I don't know if I want one, but we'll get to that in a second. But you're so overcome with emotion, and you just realizing the world's fucked, everything's around you fucked. Like you're back to literally the same ending from the first one, where nothing feels good. Well, in this case, 30 hours, but in the first game, like 15 hours. Like, nothing feels good. And I didn't think they could do it twice, but they fucking did it twice.
So
before we pretend to be right, I just like to use these moments because we can kind of talk freely, unlike we can do on the podcast.
Yeah.
I just like, let's go through the favorites. The little favorites I got here. I just like to go, why not? Before we look onto maybe what's next. So I have favorite encounter and area first. You can go ahead. You can start. Unless you want me to start. Give you a second.
Gosh. I think maybe I had the most fun in that final place in Santa Barbara before you break Ellie out.
Full Hitman
Abby
style.
out.
I get it.
Hammer away. I just felt like I felt like I didn't care at that point. You know, like I felt maybe it was a little more confident, maybe it was whatever, but I felt like just go. You know, I was not cautious. Like I was trying to sneak around, and then I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna do this and have fun. I think that was really good.
I really like with the Santa Barbara stuff where they had the clickers or the runners chained up, and you just go and let them go, and it's like it just created havoc. I thought that was a really clever mechanic that I like. When I thought about like how they could incorporate clickers and, you know, hunters in the same room, I never thought about that, and that's really good. That's like that shit you can do in Far Cry, like when there's a caged tiger in a thing, like just going up, freeing the tiger, and just letting him go loose, and that's so good.
That might be, you know, let's go with that for now.
So I'm split. The first meeting with the Scars, and like the true introduction to shrubbery, and just the true introduction to like how big these environments can get, because you go from shrubbery to like this parking structure that's huge, and like it's 3 levels and
multi-layered.
Like the top, you would think you have to go to the top layer to leave, but it's actually like the next one down.
The third,
it's really just well created, and it kind of is like the first moment where I was like realized like this is the evolution that I was asking for gameplay wise from 1 to 2, and it was just really good. And that's where you get the Seraphites and just the arrow like pulling out mechanic, and you just that's when you're first starting to become scarred by the whistling.
Yes.
And then also the ascending down the hotel. So after
that was a good one too.
Well, it's after you're
going across the bridge and fall.
And you fall, and you have to ascend down that hotel. The first time you get grabbed by I guess a stalker from the wall, it was one of the biggest jump scares. It got me because I just was not expecting that at all. And literally, and I said it earlier, but like literally every part of the game from that point on, I was just weary of the walls. And it never happens again. It's only in that hotel. But like I like whenever I saw mushrooms on a wall, even in Santa Barbara in that house where the 2 Shamblers were, I was like, fuck this, I'm out. Like I don't know what's coming out of those walls anymore. I was waiting for the time that a bloater popped out, but it never happened.
Yeah.
I did write Abby or Ellie, but I think we put our points out there. Maybe let's answer that more mechanically, like gameplay wise, like as far because they both have different weapon sets, a little bit different abilities. Who does you like playing as a little bit better?
It's funny when we got to Abby before she was fully powered up and I unlocked everything for her. I kept missing some things about Ellie, but when I went back to Ellie, I was like, wait, what about my crap? So. Yeah, it's tough. I did like the trap mines a lot with Ellie. I relied on those quite a bit just to...
You ever go with dogs?
Yeah, because I did not want to kill dogs the regular way. So it was nice to, like, set one down and then kind of walk around a corner, throw a bottle. Honestly, just because the way the dog mechanic worked was, like, they would come at you and there really wasn't a good way to take a dog out.
No, because they're always paired with a person.
Yeah, so you kind of have to, like, be... John Wick and just like pop and get the dog and the person in one 2 shots, but it was easier to do it with a mine or a trap or something.
Yeah, like I didn't want to kill the dogs either, but as soon as it started mauling me as Ellie, which once again I'm still like, oh, let's go Ellie, Team Ellie. I'm like, fuck, get off me, and then I murdered the dog. It's it's not the first or last time I'm probably doing a video game.
Yeah, but it's funny. I mean. Partway through the game when it flipped over, I remember I was trying not to say much to you because I wanted to save everything that we were going to have conversationally organically for this. But I texted our friend Tyler and just said, I kind of let him know where I was. And he was like, how much do you love Abby yet? And I was like, I don't know if I'm there yet. I was like, I kind of know where this is going, but I don't know if I love her yet. I was like, but also, I don't think I really love Ellie either. So and by the end of it, again, I think we've talked about that.
Single-handedly, Ellie's... explosive crossbow was much more satisfying than the explosive shotgun.
Yeah, I agree. That was fun too.
I think that's like single-handedly why I think I enjoyed playing as Ellie just a little bit more, although Abby's side of the story is like so much better.
Yeah, I agree.
I have favorite new character here. I have a feeling it's easy based off.
Yeah, it's Lev.
It's Lev, yeah. It's Lev for me as well.
Like, if they told me that part 3 is just a game about Lev going to save Abby after she's been kidnapped, like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
He's going to kill them all. And then,
Yeah.
Literally just repeat everything you just did. And I think I'd be fine with it, too. And then I put in favorite setting. This doesn't necessarily have to be an encounter. Maybe just a favorite area of yours. I will say mine. I was laid off. Like, the museum, I think, was one of my favorite things. Like, just going through, literally putting the hats on everything, which is fun. It also it does such a good storytelling thing of telling you about, just reminding you how good of, in terms of Ellie and Joel are and how good their chemistry is. But, then you get into the rocket ship and you pretend to, like, I just wholeheartedly, when that first flashback happened, I was just like, oh, this is what The Last of Us 1 did so well, and it's just back and kind of even better in 2.
Yeah. No, I think that museum was an early example of something really strong. That's a good one. I liked the Seraphites Island a lot. I liked seeing their structures, and the way that they lived seemed really cool to me. Like, it gave me Midsummer vibes, the movie Midsummer, like the way they all lived, except not like
not that we know, though. That's, to be fair, not that we know.
Sure, but like, it's funny, like, even though the Seraphites are kind of cult, blah blah blah, whatever, like they fall into that negative connotation. They never kind of crossed over as bad as Midsummer did. But I don't know, I just kind of appreciated the way they lived versus everyone else was like holed up in these very urban structures, and
they actually built stuff. Like, everyone else just kind of lived off the ruins or whatever. But like they actually went out and built their tribe or whatever, their city on an island.
It seemed like an evolution of a community where like everyone else just kind of like went into a space that was already happening, which was also cool too. Like, seeing the way that like when you sort of realize that Abby and the wolves are all living in the old football
Yeah, I had a little
stadium,
mini
like,
pop for that. I'm not gonna lie. When you walk in and see the football
Yeah.
field, oh shit, I'm at the Seahawks stadium.
Yeah, and you
And
see
they
how
even
they
had some of the
transformed it.
markers too. Like it didn't say Seahawks, but it had some of like the unique structure from the Seahawks stadium. And I was just like taking it all. I was like, damn, they did actually pretty good. Like that was a fun little pop for me. Yeah. Then what's your favorite multiplayer moment in this game?
So far for me, it's coming, Matt. It's coming. I promise.
It still hurts. It still hurts.
It'll hit.
Dude, I have a YouTube video of Nick. It was me and Nick. I played some opposite teams in The Last of Us Part 1. And for whatever reason, PSN, despite us being in the same party, was in different teams. That motherfucker ran his mouth once. And he was like, oh, I see you. And he started shooting me. But I popped out with that rifle and got him right in the head. And I was like, I see you, bitch. And he was down. He was like, oh, motherfucker. Yeah, like that is on YouTube somewhere. It might be private. I don't know. But yeah, that's forever. Like, I can't have that moment again right now.
Yeah. It'll come, and I think it'll be cool. A lot of the mechanics they added gameplay-wise this time around, seeing how they can expand on those.
I'm so excited, like you diving around and sliding. Like I cannot wait for me to start running around with a bow and arrow, and then get the special upgraded weapon to start fucking blowing people up with my bow and arrow. I can't, like, it's, whew. And the two factions this time are easily going to be the Seraphites and the WLF, the Wolves. Like it's so obvious, and I can't wait.
I can't wait to play as Fat Nathan Drake, Donut Drake. And my big question to kind of close it out: what did you take away from this game? What was your, it's been a week or however long. Like, where are you at with it?
I still think about this, and it's not in a way like I've had the brief moments of like wanting to get the platinum. And even like I could do them very easy, and I'm kind of back to that moment, at least like I was with the first Last of Us, where like I want my first experience to be my experience with that game. And like, later down the road, I started to try to do grounded runs, and I only made it so far, and then I stopped, or just fell off of it, or got to a tough part. And I'm like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Like, I don't know. There's something. I don't know, like, I didn't even, like, do the homework on The Last of Us Part 1, but, like, earlier on, where like, you had struggled naming David, and, like, it just rolled, like, I just remember it. I just want that to be my experience again, The Last of Us Part 2, and I think I'm going to remember The Last of Us Part 2 just as well as I still remember The Last of Us Part 1, and whether that's a year or 2 years or 3 years from now, but I don't know, like, and I dipped my toe. I did not go fully, and I don't want to either after just dipping my toe, like just the internet reactions. But I feel like this game, more so than the first one, is just going to be something that's forever talked about. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know yet, but it's going to be this. It's almost like, remember when like just any like controversial ending to a show like The Sopranos, where like when it just cut the black and like people still talk about what happened at the end of that, like. I think this is just going to be one of those games that's going to be remembered for possibly pushing story forward in a video game medium, and deservedly so, because I got more emotionally invested in moments of this game than I ever have with like some of my favorite TV shows, including like Mr. Robot and stuff like that. Like the same emotional impact with some of the best shows I've ever watched on TV, or best movies, or anything like that. And I don't know, like I don't want to revisit it, but it's not a bad thing. It's I think I'm happy to like not have the platinum in both of these games. And did Left Behind have trophies or whatever? Whatever. I didn't go back to Left Behind either. And I think I said on the podcast, I think I played it the first day. I've never returned to it.
Yeah, no, I had that throughout, after looking back on it. Like, I feel like this game has so much of that. If we lived in a different world where video games were taken a little more seriously, or if this made sense to do, like, this is a perfect example of, like, I could write so many high school, college essays on themes in this game, or you know what I mean? Like, And there's a kid, whenever people are allowed to go back to school, who's doing that right now, you know? And there's a lot in here, you know, there's a lot of the game that reflects where we are, where we need to be. And I'm with you. Like so a couple things in the wake of this compared to the first one. My immediate reaction was the same. I don't want another one. Right? But I want another one after this one more than I wanted another one after the first one. So I'm like, after that first one, I was like, stop, don't do anything else, don't do it. And then they put out Left Behind. And I was like, okay, well, if you're going to do it, I trust you.
You see,
then they announced 2.
Right, go ahead.
No, but then 2, and then I was like, all right, I'm excited because I trust you after Left Behind, but also I didn't need this. I didn't need a follow-up to that story. That story could have ended and been fine. Now, having seen this, I'm like, okay, what do you got, you know?
Yeah, you talk about Left Behind and like, yeah, that impressed you. I never looked at it like it is an expansion game. Like I'm not saying that it's not, but like I never looked at it as like a continuation of The Last of Us. I just looked at it more as an extension because it literally filled in holes, right? It never extended past the story.
Sure. No, yeah, you're right.
So like you filled in the gap between what happened after the university and Colorado, like winter or whatever, where how Joel kind of nursed himself back to health. But then you also got more out of Ellie, and you know you got the big payoff there at the end where you kind of find out like you know her sexual like you know what she leans towards sexually, and you know, and it wasn't one of those cheap things of like, oh well, we now have a character in the LGBTQ plus community. It's like it felt natural, almost like this game did, and like. I don't know. I don't want to go down this path. No.
But that was my thing with Left Behind. Like, I don't want to go too far into that one either because we have more to talk about too before we wrap up. Mm-hmm. But with Left Behind, it was to me like you got to see that Ellie has just had a life of torture this whole time, right? Like the person that she. And I always appreciated how they did that story because it was never anything but just like. Natural.
It was 2 friends sneaking out and just like fucking off, like
and realizing they had something, and it went, and then the fact that you know that girl didn't make it, right? Like that, and Ellie already had that,
and Ellie thought like she was gonna die too, and like the way she finds out that it's immune is almost heartbreaking, and then. Yeah. I don't know, you just couple that on with the end of The Last of Us Part 1, and you just kind of like you understand why she's so pissed off at Joel. Like it is such. They have done a fantastic job of just building the characters in this game and just the world as well. I know I said like The Last of Us isn't necessarily about its characters, but about its world. And I was trying my best to like I was trying my best to say like don't just blindly think Ellie's the good guy. Yeah. And that's what I meant by that. And like I don't know, like when it's taken out of context, I can think about that. Like no, like this definitely the characters that are fucking driving the story, but. That's what I meant by that a couple weeks ago, and
yeah.
I don't like, dude. They just nail every. I don't know how they do it, and like you know, I'm a Naughty Dog like apologist at this point. I fucking have like a Nathan Drake like plushie, like from Crash Bandicoot. Like let's just be real. Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter. I played a little bit of Jak 2, never Jak 3, but like those games are great. And then here we are with the more mature themes of Uncharted and The Last of Us, but yeah, man. I don't know. But I think we're just going to be back to where we were at square one. It's like when Part 3 comes out, it's going to come rolling out, and I'm going to have to shadow it out at midnight. And it's like, I don't know, man. Part 2 was so good. And it's so funny to say that now after like me saying it all along about Part 2 after Part 1. And I was like, I don't know, man.
With Part 1, I like bled for that game. Like I was so ready for it. The day that it came out, I had the countdown thing going on PS3, like pre-installed. I was playing through Sleeping Dogs leading up to midnight just to wait for it to happen. And then I stayed up as long as I could stay up playing it. And as soon as I woke up, I played it again. I went to work and came home, and then I played it again. Like just nonstop, and absolutely loved every moment of it. And then this one, like a week before it came out, I was like, I don't care at all. And now here we are, a couple weeks out. But
yeah.
So, well, looking ahead, like, what would you want in a part 3?
I kind of want to do the same thing. I really want Ellie not to be the main character. I want her to step to the side. I'm not saying beat her at the golf club as well.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I want her to be a secondary character. And it's funny because we had it jokingly in the notes here, but like we talked about Hideo Kojima and Metal Gear Solid 2, like who did it better, whatever. But you never have that showdown between Snake and Raiden. I mean, like they more so than anything, Solid Snake just kind of comes in as a side piece and helps Raiden along the way. And I kind of would like to see something like that. Now, I don't want to totally abandon Abby and Lev, but I don't see how a part 3 incorporates those two without kind of messing up a little bit of the themes and just not the storybook ending, but like just the complete kind of cyclical way that it all came together.
I think what you could do, and so, okay, I'm conflicted on this one, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I think one way to do it is you start with both stories split, and you bring them back together again. And you do a thing gameplay-wise the same way that like GTA 5 like evolved that, where you were jumping between the 3 players. Let it jump between 3 players. Let it jump between 5 characters, right? Like really expand it out.
So you want to find Ellie like passed down on a bench with a bottle of like tequila next to her?
Exactly. Brown paper bag in her underwear, soiled herself completely. Yeah. I think ultimately what I want in the next game is just to be surprised. Like none of how this game came out or played out as what I expected when they first announced it years ago. And after I finished the first one, I didn't think this is at all what I wanted in a sequel if I ever saw a sequel. And I honestly, if it were me writing the game, if you said, here you go, you're writing this game, what is it? My first question is, what do we need as a people? Because this game looks at the collective we and says, we need something to kick us in the side of the head and remind us to care about one another, to show empathy and to be kind to one another. We need something that turns the mirror around and shows everybody how ugly they've become, something that highlights how alike we are and to bring us together, because everything, the fucking media mostly, but everything around us is telling us to just hate one another and divide and us versus them. And if you don't believe in this, then you're like, all of that is it. Everything is always telling us to divide. So something like this looks at a need. It's filling a need to bring us together and unite people rather than divide them. And I would love to believe that by the time The Last of Us 3 comes out in 2027, as we're knocking on the door of the PlayStation 6, that we're not in a state of the world. I'm not speaking of our country, but like globally, where just people are better to one another across the board. I'm not saying that everyone's always going to get along. It's just human nature that there's always going to be a divide. There's always going to be war. And this game shows us that more than ever. But it also shows us how beautiful life can be when we do work together and when we do accept each other for our faults and for our differences.
But you can build off of that.
You can, but my point is, I would love if we got to The Last of Us Part 3 and everything was cool, man. Like we just had some other stuff to worry about. We don't have to worry about bring each other together. But if it's that, I hope they do that again, and I hope they find a way to tell that story in the right way.
Do you think do you think Nathan Drake can be that force that brings everyone together? Because you said he does exist.
Yeah, they brought him. Well, technically, so did Jack and Daxter in this, because I also found the little the orb too. So, yeah, I say go all the way, man. Bring them all in.
Jack and Daxter, like what the fuck is that? Is that affected? Daxter gets shot. Oh my god, what a tragic Jesus. Ooh. And then Jack's out for revenge. He's going to kill them all. Oh, shit. I can write this. Give me a pen, Naughty Dog. Neil, I can write you. I can fantasy book you.
But a third game, I would just want it to be as much of a reflection of the state of humanity as this game was a reflection of where we're at right now. And honestly, I mean, that's just good art, you know?
No, yeah, it really is. I don't know. I can't even answer that question, and I'm glad I don't get paid to answer this question either. I don't know what I want, and and it's back to the Shadow of the Doubt thing. Like, I never thought about what I wanted in a part 2. I just always was like, I don't want.
Yeah,
it.
I think I was
why
too.
Why do I want this? I don't want it. And I'm gonna be back to that. But damn it, like, you know, at an E3 or hold on, wait. Rewind. At something when they finally announced a part 3. And
it's called Wednesday now, Matt.
when they announced a part 3, you know, I'm gonna pop, but then I'm gonna immediately say I don't know, and then it's gonna be the same cyclical thing that I just went through again. And I hope once again I'm wrong. I just, like, at this point, I think this is the point I was making earlier. At this point, I'm like a Naughty Dog apologist. So, like, whatever they want to do, I'm buying day one. And whether that is a new IP, whether that is an Uncharted 5, whether that is some, like, Uncharted card game for the Vita, I'm going to buy it day one nowadays. And I just hope that they use those good graces to, and if that is indeed a part 3, like, they just further cement that point that I will buy anything from them, $60, $70, $80, whatever the price of a game is by the time it comes out. Day one.
I think that's another thing too, and I've said this before, but it's good art should challenge you. You know, you shouldn't. I think the fact that so many people are upset about this one is just a sign of how good this really is. You know, if a band comes out with an album and they sound exactly the same as the last one did, do you really listen to it all that much? Or does it fade off and you start listening to the old one because that one's the one you already know? And I feel like in this case, if they had just put out another game of Joel and Ellie walking through the woods together and then they hit a couple of snags, like, if you could have predicted every story...
They travel back east to the Firefly.
Yeah, you know, like,
Firefly
if that had been the game, like, would that really have done anything for you?
No,
like,
and that's why, like, I guess I thought that's what they were going to do. It was just going to be another, all right, Joel and Ellie are back at it again. It's going to, you know, there's going to be shitty moments along the way, and it's going to be that heavy theme or whatever, but this totally caught me by surprise. And I'm glad I stayed away from as much as I did. I'm glad I didn't know the runtime. I'm glad I didn't know about Abby. I'm like, I'm like over the moon for this game.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's still a 9 out of 10 does have multiplayer.
That's fair. Well, that's been The Last of Us Part 2, Matt. The whole thing.
Man, what a ride.
My question for you is, what's the next game that we do a spoilercast for?
Gears 5. Because you reminded me about that shitty choice at the end.
Oh, I forgot about that. How about do one for Paper Mario Origami King?
Yeah, do you think that one needs it?
I think that's, of all the games to have a spoiler cast for, I think that might be the one. Well,
what is down the? I mean, I honestly, after this game, Ghost of Tsushima, but I don't think you're playing at, like, launch day.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna wait. I am gonna wait on that one. I just want to see. But after playing, it was as I was walking into the compound first in Santa Barbara, like when you first get the submachine gun, I was like kind of creeping around a corner, and I had this moment where I was like, "Do I have to buy Ghost of Tsushima now?" Because, like, I hit it and I was like, I really like this game, and I 2 weeks ago was just adamant that I would not like this game, and I was like, "Do I have to buy that game? I gotta buy that game, don't I?"
Well, maybe it would be the same thing. It's probably going to be a day one purchase again for me, and I'll have to talk you into it on the podcast as I'm talking about it. As I'm talking about my samurai following the wind. You know,
you got to give me another divisive Metroid game to play the week before, the week that everyone's playing Ghost of Tsushima, and then tell me that everybody hated Ghost of Tsushima.
According to Ben, the 3DS one, Samus Returns.
You can't open up old wounds like that, my friend.
Or hell, Tetris.
Matt, where can people find us if they want more of what we do?
All right. You can follow me at MattyIce131. They can follow you, Mr. Joe Dix, at The Free Cheese. You can follow the Free Cheese at Some Free Cheese. As always, And we figure out, once again, what same as the Final Fantasy VII. If there is something you want to write in about, we'll figure out a way to get on the podcast. But you can write us at podcast@thefreecheese.com. I think that's the show.
That's it. That's the whole thing, man. We did it. We'll be back our regular Monday style with a new numbered episode that won't be open spoiler talk. But thanks for hanging out with us, Matt. Thanks for putting all our timeline, our outline together for this.
Of course,
making
this
sure we
is
had a
fun.
good show.
I always like doing this.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener.
See you next time.